So the real question is, why are you here? Why did you come here today? Why do you come to this class at all? What are you expecting to get here? What are you looking for? And each one of you has a very different answer to that question. Ultimately, not different, but in the moment, different. Most people start a spiritual life because something isn't working in their life, or something has disturbed the balance of their life and made them question, what is this all about? Not a lot of people stumble into this. Some people do. You know, a lot of people go to Hatha yoga classes because they want to, whatever they want to be, beautiful, stretched out, comfortable, relaxed. And then they discover at the end of the Hatha yoga class that there's this thing called a meditation, and they try it and they like it. That's stumbling in. Some people have a life-threatening illness, or they lose somebody very close to them and feel incredible, unexpected emptiness in their life they never knew was possible. Or whatever the sad event is that occurs that makes you go, there's got to be more than this. Very few people just say to themselves at the age of 10 or 15, I need to meditate. Mostly what people say to themselves is, I need to have a life. I want to have a life. And even for each person here, that has a little bit of a different significance. For some people that means I need to get married and have kids and have a really good job, or have a lot of money, recognition, fame, success, have a life. Somewhere around 40, that's either happened or not happened, or the prospects for it are either very, very bright or really growing dimmer by the hour. And that's a really big moment. Either I have a life or I don't have a life. Trust me, not having a life in many ways is a better situation, because having a life delays this whole process. It's not until you get to the very end where people start to die and the career is boring and you can't get that final advancement or whatever it is that you get frustrated. If you don't have a life when you're in your 40s or 30s, you have a shot at questioning what all this is about. It's a very good thing to do. Why am I here? Not just in this classroom. Why am I here? I've talked about my friend's father who died a while back at the age of 96 and was basically going, why me? You know? You would like to work that out somewhere a little earlier in the game. So you really have to figure this out. Why are you in this room? And there are people who come to this class because what they want is to have a life. And they think coming to this room will make them happier, more energetic, peaceful, whatever it is that might make their life better. Some of them actually come here because they want a career. They think if I come here, in my case, if they have a good screenplay, I'll read it or something like that. They want me to help them in that part of their life. Other people come here because they really think that if they relax inside, they'll get the girl or the guy, or they'll find some technique for finally getting the job they've always wanted. And in fact, that may happen. It may happen. The danger of that happening is then they're done here. They got it. They got what they wanted. They got married. They got the job they always thought they would have. And it's over for them. Their whole purpose in being in this environment is satisfied. The sad part of that for me is that has very little to do with what this is. It's not a bad thing to get what you want, except the realization when it occurs that what you want isn't what you want, that it didn't satisfy, that it only lasted for a while, because nothing in life satisfies ultimately. It satisfies temporarily. Everything gives us a kind of pleasure that's, oh, that's great, but it's not like, I don't ever want that again. Then you have to seek that pleasure again, and again, and again, and a little bit more of it. So the slice of chocolate cake becomes an entire chocolate cake, or a whole gallon of ice cream, or whatever it is that's suddenly beyond healthy and good for you. Or the very thing that you love the most goes away. Your job, which identified you as a human being, suddenly is gone. A lot of people experiencing that right now. Or the person who you loved walks out on you, or you find you no longer love them. Wow. Or the kid you raised with such love and compassion and tenderness looks at you and says, why did you destroy my life? Why were you such a terrible parent? I was doing the best I could. I mean, that's what you end up in life. Somewhere along the line, if you're lucky, something says to you, there's more to it than this. And meditation becomes an avenue toward whatever that pursuit is, that discovery is. You're looking for the thing that's more than this. And the great thing about coming to meditation is that it really is the doorway to what is more than this. This is the doorway to that. You really can enter this room and get everything you're looking for in life. I don't know how many places can claim that. What's incredible is that a lot of people can sit here day after day or week after week, year after year, and not get it. Somehow there's always a feeling that, well, if I just sit here, that'll be enough. Well, it's not enough, because you have to engage this. You can't just be present in it. I mean, you can. I mean, imagine a rock under a waterfall. After time, that rock will crack. But you guys are not rocks. You're human beings. And human beings can engage life. They can go, I want, I wish I had, I need. Those are powerful forces. You can be with another person across the table and love them and want to reach out to them, to have them as part of your life. You can do this thing called relationship, interacting, connectivity. It's a remarkable thing. But a lot of people come here and they just sit like a rock. Do it to me. Give it to me. I kind of want it. You take care of it. Well, I mean, I can. It will happen. But it will probably take a lot more lifetimes than you have time for in this room. Because the water dripping on or dropping on the rock is a very long geological process. This class doesn't have to be a geological process. It can be a powerful, interactive, human and spiritual process, which means that if you bring yourself to the table, if you say to yourself in some profoundly real inner way, I want this, I need this, or I need to grow, as Rudy used to put it, or I need to surrender. If you can do that and bring yourself, so when I look at you, there's a part of you that is reaching to me at the same time as I am reaching to you, that is the dialogue of spiritual growth. That's how this thing happens. It's two working together to become one. It's the halves merging. Rudy was very smart in saying to me very early on, your spiritual work is a life's effort. He told me when he said, I'm going to teach you an exercise, he said, and now you have to do this for the rest of your life. I went to the dentist 2 weeks ago and they looked at my teeth and said they could be whitened. I said, okay. So I went and had a whitening. And then they said, now you have to do this every 3 months for the rest of your life. I went, what? What? Why can't I just do it once? They said, because they're going to get stained again. And I felt trapped by that. But when Rudy said to me, by the way, this is two times, I get one more tomorrow. And every 3 months for the rest of my life. But when Rudy said to me, for the rest of your life, I don't know why I said yes, but I did. I said yes because I knew that I really cared about this. And then I entered into, right after I met Rudy, middle age and midlife. And I got to tell you, midlife is the hardest time to grow spiritually. Not to grow really, but to fulfill yourself spiritually. Middle life is your career. It's perhaps a relationship, a marriage. It's perhaps children. It's demand beyond belief. It is constant effort and demand. And in that middle life period, that demand is hard. It is, in fact, for many of us, brutal, beyond brutal. Most people get lost in a deep and profound way during the middle part of their life, either from getting what they want or not getting what they want. Either way, it's unbelievably conflicting and dramatic and complicated, and in its rare moments, absolutely wonderful and beautiful. Worth it. If you introduce a spiritual life in the middle of your middle life, it holds you together. It keeps you in play. It keeps you conscious. It actually allows you to do what Rudy called growing, which means that you take every moment of your material life and you recognize it as your spiritual life. You recognize it as an opportunity to do something, which Rudy called open as opposed to close, rise above as opposed to sink under. Rudy had a real prescription for how do I live my life? How do you live a real life? What I love about Rudy's teaching, and what I think is so important about what we do here, is that it makes every moment of your life part of the process of growing conscious, becoming spiritually awake, becoming yourself, as opposed to doing it unconsciously, in which you simply suffer through the day-to-day demands, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Rudy's work is vital in terms of keeping yourself in the game, if you will. Keeping yourself alert and awake during the whole middle process. And then you come to this interesting point where the career perhaps is over. Children have left the nest. It's just you and whoever you're with, or maybe you're just with yourself. That's it. All of this stuff is starting to fall away, including your memory, which is a kind of blessed thing. It just starts to fall away. And you don't have to do it so much. Spiritually, the practice in the middle is to try to let go of the past and the future. As you get toward the end, a lot of the past just goes. And the future is very minimal. So you don't get that caught up in it. So the joy of getting to the end of life is that a lot of what you had to do as work in the middle is no longer work. It's really just happening. But it still requires consciousness. It still requires that you make an effort until it doesn't. The it doesn't is a fascinating thing. It doesn't happen automatically for everybody, but it can happen. And it's more likely to happen if you have threaded through your middle life with this necklace, if you will, of clarity and the pearls of enlightenment. There's moment to moment to moment, week to week, or if you meditate every day as you should, these bursts of light that occur through your entire life. And they become a chain of light that threads through the whole core of your life. And at the end of your life, it's still there as representing the wholeness of your life. This is a great thing, because you don't have to kind of create that when you're 60 or 70 years old, or to be 96 and go, why me? You've done the work. You've done the work. And then what can happen at some point at the end of your life, in a very natural way, is you become full, rich, sweet, delicious, and you drop off the tree. You become a ripe fruit. Done. Pah. There you are. Finished. That's called arriving at the end. Realizing or finding what you've been looking for. I talk a lot, Rudy did too, about professional seekers, people who always only want to seek. They have no desire in finding. And you have to be careful not to become that person, because if you identify with being a seeker in your life, then you don't want to give that up because you're afraid to give up your life, and therefore seeker is the definition. But be a finder. Rudy said that, be a finder. Here's the tricky thing. You can't find what you're looking for. It finds you. It appears, or it arises, or it awakens. It's the end of the path. It's the top of the stairs. You arrive. You're there. Done. Seeking is done. I don't know that it's a logical progression. I don't know that it's a given that you get to the top of the stairs in any given lifetime, let's say. But that path of stepping up day to day to day is worth it, it's meaningful, it's important. And so now you end up at that moment of poof, that awakening. I've been talking about it a lot, of course, in the classes recently. The awakening is not something that you have. The awakening is that you don't exist. That's what you're finally discovering after all of this work. There never was a you, not the you that you thought. The you that was struggling and having a hard time and worrying and unhappy and unsatisfied and wanting a life and not wanting the life you have, all of that thing falls away. That persona falls away. Even while you're still alive. It's gone. Poof. But what's left? This is left. What is this? What is this that's left? What is it that's looking through these eyes if there's no me? What's listening through these ears if there's no me? What's speaking if there's no me? Who are all these people? The wonder is, and it becomes very clear to you, that the no individual me is a singular being. And that singular being is everywhere. It has no locus. It is emerging through each of you, through the carpet, the windows, the sun pouring through, the trees outside. It's all the same thing. It's all one thing. And that's what you are. And that's what you learn. So, here you are, awake to all of that. And in a way, you're done. But what happens in Western culture when you're done and you still have to go to work, you still have to deal with the kids, you still have to earn an income, you still have somebody getting angry at you because you didn't do this or do that. Here you are, this awakened guy who in India 500, 1,000 years ago would have just sat under a tree and just said, okay, I'm done. Here I am. And what happened in India, which was a really nice thing, is that people brought you food, and they put flowers around your neck, and they bowed down to you, and they said, oh, teach us, oh great one, how to be what you are. And he would say, you are already what I am, but they wouldn't figure that out. And and now here we are in the Western world, and you awaken, and what do people do? And except, why were you late for dinner? When are you coming home? The kids saying, look, we got to get this and we got to do that. Life goes on. Life goes on, whether you're awakened or not awakened. And how do you deal with that? Well, what's interesting for me is that everything I learned in all of my years of doing Rudy's practice, of learning how to live in a responsive and responsible way, meaning reactive beautifully to each person, or at least trying to be beautifully reactive to each person who arose, who was in front of me at any given moment. I had to learn over 45 years of practice how to live. Well, the awakening happens, and it's still happening. I still have to do the same thing. Only now, what's so really fascinating, and I tell you, the real switch that takes place is that I'm not doing it, it's doing it every day. And it's doing everything Rudy taught. It's living a life of responsibility. It is responsive to whatever arises. It doesn't seek out anything particularly, it just responds to what comes. And it keeps coming and coming because I'm still here. This is still here. It will go away at some point, but it hasn't yet. So it's still here and it's responsive to what is. What I'm trying to get at is this practice that we have is extraordinary before you awaken, and it's extraordinary after you awaken. It's just a wonderful way to live a life, to live a conscious life. And this is what you're being given as you come here. So when I ask, why are you here? Find out what that is. Find out why you're here. And if you're here to become more resume worthy in your life, you'll probably get that. And then you'll probably leave. If you're here to identify with the seeker, I was always, as a teacher, very honest about what it was for me to be a seeker. How it was that what I went about. I discovered after this awakening took place that there are a fair number of people who are no longer interested in the class because they're not here to awaken or to find. They like the idea of seeking. They find finding kind of threatening. They don't actually want that. What's that about? All these years of sitting here asking to surrender, and then when surrender truly happens in a profound way, they go, I don't want that. Because, you know why? I can't have that. There won't be a me to have it. That's why people who want to run away. because everything I've been offering was something you want for you. I am a spiritual being. I am enlightened. I am this extraordinary thing. Well, it doesn't work that way. You can't have it. And the thing that most wants to own it is the very thing that ultimately disappears. And it's really, as I've said in earlier classes here, good riddance. You cannot believe how wonderful it is to have that go away. Because you don't want that, truly. That part of you that wants to own this is tiresome, weighty, difficult, and ultimately offensive. You want to let it go. And that's what you're practicing here. I wish to surrender. What do you want to surrender? That awful, judgmental, difficult, endlessly telling you what's wrong with you, what's right with you, you're the best, you're the worst. Get rid of that. How do you get rid of it? Just observe it. Watch it. Surrender. Don't let it take over. It's a great practice. And when it finally falls away, it won't be a big, traumatic, dramatic situation. It will be, I've witnessed now a number of people who've had this awakening in midlife, and it's really complicated. They have children, they have spouses, they have jobs, they have all of these things still right in the middle of all of that. And here they are, like global and awakened, and don't know what to do about it. I actually met a woman, I didn't meet her, I met her family in India when I was a kid. I stayed in their house, these wonderful people. Their mother had had an awakening and left the whole family. She said, goodbye, I don't need this. And she went off and opened ashrams, and they were left like, and that's how I met them, in the stage. It was fascinating, and I felt, these poor people, they've been totally abandoned by this woman. And when I met Rudy, I realized a true awakening, you don't leave your family. You don't leave anything. It's just the opposite. You become infinitely more responsible to them, to what's right in front of you, to the spouse. I can go on forever, guys, but let me just say, your spouse, if that's who you have, the significant other in your life, is the other half of you. They're the other half of you. You've got to look at them as God talking to you. You really do. And when you start to do that, it is completely amazing. Not where you're getting angry at them all the time or saying you should be doing this and trying to change them. Forget that. Let them change you. That's the great thing. Let your partner change you. Listen to them. See yourself through their eyes. Get out of your own center. Be that person. That is the beginning. That's the circle of the mandala, the closest part of the mandala. Then it spreads out into everyone around you. A real life, a significant life, looks at all the people around you as your teachers, as reflections of yourself. Before enlightenment, you have to work at that. After enlightenment, it's natural. It's just natural. The great thing about awakening is that it all comes easily. It just is. You don't have to do it. It does it. It doesn't do it all day long. I mean, a lot of people expect awakening to be, oh, now I'm God. I'm one, I'm all there is. No. You're just you. You're just this thing. But, I'm going to give all my talks in one talk here. It's very much what physicists call, in talking about light, wave and particle. Light is a wave if you look at it one way, and it's a particle if you look at it another. We are the same thing. If you look at us spiritually, we are this wave. If you look at us specifically, we're this person. But it's all the same thing. Impossible to understand. But we are wave and particle. And at some moments you'll be the particle, and at some moments you'll be the wave. I've described it to myself now as being global and individual. At some moments I become global, and then at some moments I just become this specific thing. It's all part of the whole. You're the whole. You're one with the whole. You're not separate anymore, you're just one. But there are times where the particle speaks, and there's times where the wave speaks. This is what is happening in the awakening experience. After you are awakened, You still have life to live until you don't. And what you need to do is learn in your day-to-day, present tense moment how to live your life. And you can use all of these principles that come out of this class, out of Rudy's teaching, as an extraordinary sort of instruction manual in how to be a person. And when you have an awakening, you will discover that manual still applies. It's really powerful and important stuff. But none of it will matter if you don't know why you've come here today. So, any questions?
We talked over the years. We talked about the mind being like a radio that's in another room, and it may never go. It never goes away, but you just learn to pay less and less attention to it. After awakening, do you find that to be true? And if it's less specific than that, should we be engaged in practicing techniques to take the mind, to quieten the mind specifically, or is it more the nature of what Rudy?
Well, first of all, it's no one thing. You know, there are times I wake up in the morning and the radio's playing very loudly, and there are times where it's completely quiet. I often just sit up in the morning and I just sit there, and I can hear the radio, and then I go, doesn't matter, and I just focus on the stillness. And the radio is like it's not even there. It's there, but it just truly doesn't matter. There are times the radio is blaring, just blaring, and you have to pay attention to the radio. Either turn it off if you can, or there it is, and you just live with it. What you're not doing is, why is that radio on, and why can't I turn it off, and why am I? You're not in that kind of struggle. There's just no struggle with what is. I mean, maybe there is a struggle. Sometimes there is a struggle. My biggest thing now is being in the car and thinking we're going to have a crash. And it's not that I'm thinking Blanche is driving differently and I'm not driving so much. So I'm watching these moments happen, and I go, there's this bodily reaction to that. And I go, wow, that's really interesting. For an enlightened guy, why am I terrified of having a car crash? Well, I'm not terrified of a car crash. This body is. This body is very biologically vibrant and alive. And it doesn't want to go away particularly, And I questioned that at the beginning. I go, well, what is this awakening if you still have bodily fears? What does that mean? And does that mean I'm not awakened? Is one of the questions. It's a dialogue that goes on. And so how do I figure that out? Well, I can only look at certain things, and one of them, and I've talked about this before, is Christ. If there's ever been an awakened entity on the planet, I think Christ is a great manifestation of that. And yet, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was not a happy camper. He was fearful. And on the cross he suffered. And he thought he had been abandoned. And he asked, why have you forsaken me? If Christ can do that, I can do that. Nisargadatta, who was one of the great teachers who wrote the book I Am That, he owned 4 tobacco shops. And he was a heavy smoker. And throughout his entire awakening, he smoked all the time. And people went, well, how can you be awakened if you're smoking? And he said, I'm not smoking, my body is smoking. It's addicted. Now that doesn't make sense to a lot of people in terms of mind stuff. It's like, well, this is bullshit. What are you talking about? Well, it's how it works. And in the end, he died of throat cancer, which was very painful. And he was not happy with that at all. And I wouldn't be either. None of us would be. There's no magic here. Although it's completely beyond our normal perception. It's so what it is that you don't know what to do with it. You just you walk around in a state, to me, you walk around in a state of either wonder or gratitude, kind of all the time. Except when you don't. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes what I've discovered is that presence, what I call presence, rises up when it needs to. And it subsides. You don't have to be present all the time. You don't have to be in a state of, it would be horrible. It's not like that. You don't want to walk around ecstatic all day long. You burn yourself out. But when ecstasy wants to be there, believe me, it comes up. It can come up in the middle of the night, and you're lying in bed sleeping, and all of a sudden your heart goes out and you just feel in love with the universe. You don't even know what to do with it. It's so strong. It's like Rudy used to say, they're working on me. The universe is working on me. That's kind of what it's like. They're doing stuff. All over to your whole body, all of you is being worked on. It's hard to understand what it is. But, when you're the particle, it's hard to understand the wave. When you're a small person, it's hard to understand what is global. But when you're global, even then, you don't understand what you are. The way you understand it is through this little particle. That's what kind of gives it definition. Otherwise, it has no definition. It's just what it is. And what it is so beyond understanding, beyond knowledge, that it knows itself by creating all of you. Each of you is yourself knowing yourself. The self knows itself through you, just as well as through me. And there's no one who is more important in this than anyone else. The only difference between me and you is that this thing has now told me who I am. Or I've what I call reabsorbed into myself. And for a lot of you, there's still this thing of, I've got these problems, and only if this would happen and that would happen. Well, as long as you do that, you're going to feel separate and miserable and unhappy. And I'm going to tell you, you don't have to be that. You can reabsorb, but you can't. It will. But until it does, do this work. You can live this life of approximate awakening by being a conscious, loving, open human being, trying to be that. It's almost as good as awakening. So if awakening doesn't happen, it won't matter because you've already lived that wonderful life. That life of kindness and compassion and awareness and spiritual vibrancy. That's the gift of all of this. So it's interesting. In the Advaita teachings, they tell you, you are that. You're already that. There's nothing to do. You are that. Well, screw that. I hate that. When I was as crazy as I was, and people said, you're already that. There's nothing to do. How can you accept that? How can you accept that? It's true. It's completely true. But you can't accept it because you don't know who you are. You can't accept that this crazy person that you're manifesting is one with the universe. It is. But you can't accept it. You have to do the work to align yourself with this deep inner space, and then you can go, oh, I am already that. Oh, this crazy person I am is that. I don't have to fight this anymore. I can just be this crazy person. Except you're not going to want to exactly. It will shift. And you'll be who you are. And that's all you've ever wanted to be, and it's in truth all you've ever been. You are who you are. And it's a great thing. And when you discover who you truly are, like I say all the time, you'll cry for about 3 or 4 days. You'll walk around amazed, and then it will just become your normal state. It's who you are. Any other questions?
I'm aware of 2 major components of why I keep on coming back to class, and one of them is this deep hunger for the energy. And the other one is trying to fix that which I perceive in myself as broken or bad or less than perfect. And I have managed to change some behaviors and attitudes and emotions and stuff, but there's still like huge glaring things that I see that I would like to have changed. And
why do you want to keep changing? Why do you want to change it? What is telling you that it needs to be changed? Figure that one out, because here's the problem. That thing which tells you it needs to be changed will talk to you for 500,000 lifetimes and keep telling you the same thing. You'll never get it right. Ever. So, give it up. Accept yourself as you are, as best you can. because trying to fix it is a problem. First of all, it's not broken. It only tells you it's broken because by telling you it's broken, it stays in control. By giving you the mission of fixing yourself, it stays in control. Because it's terrified, and terrifying. But it's terrified of letting go. It doesn't want to let go. It wants to run the show. And it's going to die. It is going to go away. And when it goes away, you will be the happiest person on the planet. It's all you truly want. But you don't understand that, so you keep giving it its voice over and over. And this energy that you think you want from the class is not the right description of it. What's really happening in the class is you're getting the energy to let go of this voice for about 10 seconds or half an hour, whatever you pull off here. What happens in the essence of this class is that you disappear. Then you're back again. Then you're all, all this stuff is happening all over the place. I don't know, what was that? How did I do that? I don't know what happened. I want to have that experience again. You can't have that experience. You can't have that. What that experience is no you. You sit in this class and you actually get, through the interaction of a teacher, which helps, you get 10 seconds to an hour of no you. It's the biggest gift in the world. And at some point, something in you will stop owning that experience, wanting to have that experience. It will let go of the need for that experience, and that thing that lets go of that is itself the thing you want to let go of. And then this experience of stillness just goes like this, this, this. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then there's suddenly no return of you. And you're done. That's it. But you think it's energy. It's not energy. It's absence. It's the absence of that stuff. You're trying to hold on to it and own it. Forget that. Let it go. Just be nothing. That's what Rudy said. It's to become nothing. But trust me, that nothingness, which means no thing, no you, that nothingness is the most beautiful thing imaginable. And it's your true nature. It's who you are, even as we speak. And you're sitting there right now knowing it. I can see it in you. There it is, it's right there. But I also know you. So I know that the minute I stand up, you're going to be back in because that's your pattern for so long. Stop it. Stop it. Don't do that. And you'll be free. Or at least get angry at yourself for doing it. At least get into the drama of it. Don't just sit and, oh well, I'm back to being me again. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh well, I'll come to class next week and it'll be fine. Forget that. Now. Anybody else? Okie doke. Thank you very much. Turn this on. Bye.